Why is somebody calling me? Hello?
Hello, hi, this is Raphael downstairs in security.
Uh-huh.
We're getting noise complaints that your TV is a bit loud. Would it be possible to turn it down?
Yes, of course.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye. My TV's too loud. I am so happy I took that call and you guys all heard that because you're like, he's in a hotel room. How are people not complaining? But they didn't say this guy next door is playing guitar and screaming. They said my TV was too loud. That means I must sound pretty good.
I'm Joe Normal, and you're watching Guitar Tales with Dave Cohen and Scott Guitarmachus Engel. Have a rockin' day.
Listen up!
And here we are on show number 3 of the Intermezzo series with my great friend Scott Guitarmachus Engel, who will be joining us on screen in a moment. Extra thanks to Joe Normal for our great bumper. And I couldn't stop laughing at our GT alum Phil X on tour somewhere in a hotel room, cracking us up, but doing something even more important for tonight's show, which is discourage or encourage. Do we get encouraged by great guitar players? Do we get discouraged? Do I want to throw those guitars away when I hear a great guitar player? Or do I want to play them more? And Scott put up a great post on our Facebook page, and we got all sorts of comments. And we thought, let's do another Intermezzo series. And before we pull Scott on, as always, I want to thank our sponsor, Charles Larita of Mischief Studios, doing wonderful work. We recently referred a client to him, not the dog you hear barking, but a real human being, Steve Petersack, who got great work done by him. So extra thanks to Charles Larita for sponsoring our show. And without further ado, let's get Scott Guitarmachus Engel on the show.
Here's a story. It always looks like the Brady Bunch when I come on,
It does.
except we're missing the other 4 people and Ann B.
are.
Davis in the middle.
No,
Ann B. Davis is an amazing shredding guitar player. No, not many people know this.
she always was. That's
amazing.
actually just like Johnny Depp before he started acting. That's
She would serenade Sam at the butcher shop with her
She did.
two-handed tapping on an acoustic guitar. Pretty amazing shit.
And it's funny because Eddie always actually credited her.
I always love those stories that go around like Eddie Van Halen didn't come up with two-handed tapping. There was a guy in 1938 who was, look,
He did something right.
He took it to the next level. So
He did.
just stop with that shit, okay? Just
Yes.
stop it.
All right, can I slurp right now?
Yes. I'm really in a good mood. I'm very excited about today's show. This is a subject near and dear to my heart. And I think a lot of people commented, and I have some quotes, and I have to be real. I will give my opinion. I'm playing in this area in New Jersey.
Oh yeah.
Very, very intimidating.
It is. And you know what? One of my opening thoughts for this topic, and I realized it has universal appeal. But in my day job as an attorney, it's the same thing. If I hear a wonderful attorney give an opening statement, oral argument, things like that, I could be inspired, or I could say, you know what, I want to drop my law license.
Yeah.
Things like that. So I think our topic today/tonight, it really has universal applicability. We'll talk about guitars, but I think a part of it, I want to ask you, Scott, does a lot of it have to do with the vibe you're getting from that guitar player you're seeing? Is the guitar player musically generous, approachable, or are they a little bit aloof? Because I wonder if that affects the intimidation factor.
Yeah, there's some guys that's sort of come off as a legend in their own mind, but you have to realize that could be their on-stage persona, and that's not at how they are at all in real life.
Yeah.
I'd say 99.9% of all guitar players in the cover bands around here that I talk to off stage and on stage, and we've had on the show, A
Yeah.
couple of guys, they're pals of mine. I just love what they do, and I encourage them to keep doing what they do. And it's I don't feel like it's a contest. I feel like we all have something to offer. Like, he's a really good guitar player, but he's not a super great singer. Maybe I'm a better singer than he is, and like, you can't get into all that.
No.
You can't. So everybody's got their own little bag of tricks.
So give me on your end, because I think that the perceptions from you are more important than from me today. Um, Give me a scenario. It doesn't have to be real. You could almost be like a composite character, not necessarily this happened in 1996 kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But give me that scenario where you felt intimidated and did feel discouraged. Just sort of generically speaking, what kind of factors?
I played gigs where when I found out beforehand, before I started playing, that there was some gunslinging guitar player in the crowd that was there to see the band, and it gets into your head. I made a tremendous amount of mistakes in the first 5 minutes of that gig because I was just so. And when I told said guitar player, man, you're here, I wanted to be good, and I was fucking up, and
Right.
he's like, when you come to my gigs, you make me nervous. Like, I mess up.
Oh, there you go.
I'm like, what? You? He's like, yeah. You get it. It gets into your head, because you all want to impress each other or just show your stuff,
Yeah. In my mind, I thought of a few. I won't go through them all. I just thought of a few experiences on the handful of occasions when I've gigged where I felt that way.
Yeah.
And I thought of a few in the law.
Yeah.
Where if there was an attorney I really, really respected, in the gallery watching me during trial,
Mm-hmm.
there will be a little bit of that intimidation factor. But let me switch it on you right now. Have there been occasions, again, not necessarily a real one, but just sort of a composite scenario where you're not playing, you're in the audience, and you're watching someone on stage or practicing, doesn't matter where,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily shredding, but just playing so well that you feel a little discouraged, like why am I not at that level?
Maybe I used to feel that way when I
Okay.
was starting out, but at this level now, I mean, I'm 59 years old. I pretty much plateaued, but I've said that. But then just a couple of days ago, I learned a new Randy Rhoads lick that I didn't think I could ever play. I'll never play in the band. It's just for myself here at home.
Right.
I didn't even video it and put it up anywhere, but because I was just having fun with it.
Right. So
And
that's
I'll do that. I will play. I'll hear a song on the radio or an old song, a new song, doesn't really matter. And I'll go, ooh, what's he doing there? What's she doing there? I need to figure that out. So I go right to YouTube and pull up Carl Brown or Marty songs or somebody. And these guys, it's like having a teacher in your living room.
All right, I'm glad you brought that up. So you and I were texting that a few days ago, and I was all happy. I told you I did the Joel Hoekstra. I was playing 10 minutes. It became more than 10 minutes. But I heard on the radio the ridiculously simple, It's a Long Way to Rock and Roll, or A Long Way to the Top by AC/DC.
Right.
And I thought in the beginning, I'll learn it the old-fashioned way. I mean, I could kind of figure it out. It's not that hard. And then I got lazy. I went on YouTube. I ultimately liked Schwartz. I liked his tutorial better than the few others I saw. And as I did it, it's absurdly easy, at least to do it at my level. I'm not saying it's to do it as well as they do. I found myself not having enjoyed the process as much as the old days when you had to think a little bit more.
Yeah.
And figure stuff out. Schwartz is just an amazing teacher.
Yeah.
And I think it took away from for me, it's not growth. The most I'll ever get is catching up to the way I played 20, 30 years ago, because I'm not active like you are. But I'm going to ask you, do you think that us jumping on YouTube sort of retards our growth as guitar players, where we don't have to go through as much of the struggle to learn it as we did pre-YouTube?
Well, I could tell you that songs I learned by trying to listen and with tapes and CDs and stuff, I did not learn those songs accurately. In fact, like just like a few months ago, I found out I was playing Hell's Bells wrong for like 30 years,
Right.
playing it way harder than it actually was. And when
Well-
I went on and said, "Oh, is that all it is?"
But you're literally an artist. So you know, like you paint. I mean, you are a straight up artist. When you put
Yeah.
this show together, you're an artist. So getting on YouTube, I'm gonna give you a little pushback on your theory, right? So going on YouTube allowed you to do two things. It allowed you to play it with a little more ease and a little more accuracy. Okay.
Right.
But in terms of your growth as an artistic musician, which I personally know you to be, does it also help you grow as a musician to sort of to learn sort of the right way to play it? Also, maybe it does. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, learning it from just listening definitely improves your ear, right? I mean, I haven't
Yeah.
really I have that what they call pitch perfect ear hearing or whatever the hell it is.
Right.
So I can listen to a riff and go, "Oh, I know exactly where that is," or I have an
Okay.
idea anyway of where it should be. Are there open strings? Is there a capo involved? But once you get into weird tunings, like like some Led Zeppelin stuff, like Kashmir, yeah, the Dadgad tuning and weird tunings, like you're never gonna figure that out by listening to it. You need
yeah,
a teacher to say, "Hey, you got to retune your guitar," or this is really simple, but
Here's the workaround.
I'm trying to play to a song on the record, and it sounds like an E, but it's coming out terrible. I'm talking about when I first started out.
Right.
Well, that's because Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan play in E flat, and I
Right.
got my guitar tuned to E, and I'm like playing an F, and I'm struggling, and I'm trying to figure out,
Well, that's what I got the other day because AC/DC Schwartz taught me that they actually had to what's the thing you squeeze in and out? Help me.
you mean a squeeze box, accordion?
Sort of accordion. So they actually had to tune it. They went a half step up to match the accordion.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
Van Halen famously like tune his G string like slightly pitchy, so that he would lose that dissonance that you have, that natural
Yeah.
dissonant harmonic that you have when you play two notes together, for like Running with the Devil and stuff. That's why it sounds so clean. But if he goes down the neck and plays like a regular chord, it sounds a little wonky.
Oh, that's interesting. Or even you've got every single thing Keith Richards did
Mhm.
would have a different kind of
Yeah,
sound.
now he's got an open D thing going on.
Yeah.
Open tuning, so you're not going to be able to pick that stuff up necessarily by listening. Then
Right.
came the advent of VCRs and all that stuff, and we
Which
used to tape shows. We didn't have YouTube, so we would tape Don Kirshner's rock concert or American Bandstand or Midnight Special or whatever, and that was our YouTube, right?
And
So
you have to stare at their hands.
and then you would use the VCR and
Yeah.
probably I broke more VCRs at my father's stopping and pausing and forwarding and all this kind of stuff. My brother and I burnt through Live Without a Net on VHS and Steve Ray Vaughan at the El Macambo on VHS. But that we really, by visually seeing what these guys were up to, we
Yeah.
learned a ton in a shorter amount of time
Right.
than struggling over listening and trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
All right, so let me bring you back on those examples. Discourage or encourage, right? So, were there any occasions when you're a newer guitar player? Because on our show we have people who are probably 15 or 16, all the way up to probably 75 or 80 years old who watch our show.
Mhm.
So, when you're a beginner guitar player, would any of those performances that you were trying to learn discourage you, where you would just say, I'll never be able to do this?
I think initially, in just a well-rounded sense, seeing a band play live on television was encouraging. Seeing my father play
Yeah.
drums
All right.
live was encouraging. That was the aha moment for me. I never saw my father play drums until I
Right.
was like, I don't know, 15, 16 years old at a campground talent contest. He sat down to play the drums, and I was like, what?
Right.
Because we live in an apartment. He's not playing drums at home. He's like, I'm going to work. I'm going to play drums. I'm like, okay, bye. I had no interest in music at all until I saw him play drums. And I was like,
Right.
I think I want to do that.
It's cool.
Then I started playing drums. I didn't start playing guitar till I got in college, as we heard from the first Guitar Tales show ever.
I know. That's right. The first one went.
I told the
when
story
you and
how I
were in- yeah.
started playing noodling on guitar and playing guitar.
And you famously, we had that big jam session in my house in
Yeah.
1983 with about 4 guitars and a drum.
Yeah.
I think that's all we had.
But jamming,
right.
jamming is, like I think at that level when you're jamming with other neighborhood kids,
Yeah.
and you turn out to be like the best of your group, then you kind of get a swelled head. And if you're like below that guy, like it
Well,
makes
I
you,
will tell
it
you.
makes you try harder to get better. See if you can improve yourself. Because at that early level, there's tons of room for improvement.
And there's
It
tons
gets
of
harder
insecurity.
when you plateau later on.
Yeah. Well,
It's harder to
when
get
you
more riffs.
when you and I were growing up, our mutual friend Jason Shapiro. So day 1, he's never touched a guitar. Day 365, he is playing "Mood for a Day" note for note on a
Yeah.
guitar he built. Like,
And
he
Molly
builds it-
Hatchet and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff.
So
I was like,
I will tell you that was a little discouraging for me.
yeah.
Here he is 1 year in, and he's playing Steve Howe note for note. Oh, and he built the guitar that he's playing it on.
Do you remember
know.
you wrote a song years ago called Crazy Guitar? And it was
No.
all about a guy that you're holding a guitar in your hands and it's begging for other hands to play it because you're not that good. And
No.
yeah.
I don't remember that.
I remember the line, begging for hands other than mine, you said. You sang or
Oh,
wrote,
that's funny.
whatever.
So there you go. There's
Yeah,
our
yeah.
there's our show from a wellspring of insecurity.
But the rest of it, you say, but I'll play on my crazy guitar.
Oh, that's a good line.
So even though you were discouraged, you went ahead and said, I'm going to keep focusing and trying to be better.
That's funny. I literally don't remember writing that song, but I'll take it.
So let's take a couple of quotes from our friends out
Yeah,
there in
absolutely.
TV land.
Yeah.
So the question was, does seeing an artist that's better than you or a 10-year-old kid covering Eruption, we have a video of that.
He's good.
Which is like, come on, man, really?
Yeah.
He's only 10 and I had played 30 years to learn Eruption. But this is some of the answers. Here's Bob Gilmartin says, it should always encourage you, and you as a member of the musicians community should always cheer a person on and be happy that talent is shining.
He's got the right attitude, but can we always live up to that?
Right.
We know that, but can we live up to that?
Our good friend Johnny Compton absolutely encourages me, but in my humble opinion, music is not a competition. When you're doing it properly, music is in your heart. How do you compete with someone else's heart or someone's heart? That's
he's a good soul.
Tony Rosati says we'd be nothing without our heroes. I guess pertaining to seeing and copying our heroes. Like when we first start out, we always have our guitar heroes, and
like you've always said about me, I've always been your guitar
hero. Absolutely. My early influences, you can hear my playing now, and I don't even realize it. That it's an amalgamy of a bunch of different players I've heard over the years. Some guys are famous if you've heard of. Some guys are not so famous. We can get into shredding versus slow hand. That's a whole nother. That could be a whole nother show.
I know.
Here's an honest answer from Glenn Scholler. Hope I said your name right, Glenn. It's a constant inner battle. The more you learn, the more you realize how much you really don't know, and that is so true.
It really is.
And it ties into what Lori Geffen said. She says, it makes me want to practice.
So she's getting encouraged. Forcing
Correct.
us to be our best is what she's really saying.
Let's see. Then we have Erin Deathrich, who was a former guest on the show. She had a lot to say. No. Erin is a.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
She's the shredder. That's right.
Yes, Erin the shredder. Yeah. Who talked about brand snobbery. It was a great episode. You should check that out. I like watching other players because it allows me the opportunity to study new sounds, a riff, or technique that I didn't have in my repertoire before. Very true. And you can add that and be inspired with it. And then finally we have Bill Bishop, who very truthfully said this. Literally, everyone is better than me. And he did
That's such a funny
he did
comment.
put a laughing emoji after that. But what he's saying is sometimes it is a little discouraging when you
And we
see
can feel that way, yeah.
some young buck, come up there. And when I mean young, I mean like child prodigy good
Why
young.
don't you show us right now, Mr. Scott?
So this is a segue. Let's this is one of my favorite clips of all time. It explains itself.
Do you play guitar, Collier? Put it in the mic.
Yes.
What songs do you know?
I know a lot of Metallica songs.
You want to do a Metallica song? You want to do a Metallica song? All right. Do I know a lot of Metallica songs? Me and Taylor know Metallica songs. Hit him with it, Collier. Break it reverse, see, let's hit it. Say your prayers, but don't run.
Anyway, you get the
It's
idea.
so great.
I mean, he's completely young and completely fearless, right?
Yeah, I know.
That's one
He's
thing you
always-
have when you're younger. I never had stage fright till I was over 30.
That's funny.
I just didn't care. I was fearless. I would just go out
Yeah.
there and do all kinds of trickery and so forth and get away with it. And now
that kid was-
I almost think too much. Like, oh
Yeah.
God, here comes the solo. Loosen up.
Right.
Here it comes.
Yeah,
You
that
know.
kid was beautifully fearless. He wasn't smart enough to know he should worry. It was great. But it is a clip I must have seen it 100 times.
He's in an arena playing with the Foo Fighters and
For 20, 30,000 people probably.
the late great Taylor Hawkins on drums. Poor guy.
Yeah, I know.
But what a memory, huh?
Yeah, it's something. And those kids are all over the internet. And we've talked with a couple of guests about them. A lot of them, in terms of what makes rock and roll, they're learning this stuff. Some of them I think will grow up and have what we might call the rock and roll attitude. Some of them might
Yeah.
not. Some of them might just be really great technicians, and not necessarily have or even ever develop feel
So
because it's lesson driven sometimes.
I have this question just popped in my head because it's happened to kids we went to school with and over the years that were like really into playing. I mean, really into it. They're in bands, they got the guitar, and then somewhere along the line it just stops.
Yep.
They sell their stuff or they don't play anymore. I used to play, or they got an injury and they can't play. That's one thing. But sometimes they just stop
Yeah.
playing and they were really good. and
Yeah.
I'm always surprised to hear, like, why did you stop playing?
Yeah, and I think that's dovetailing into what I was trying to convey a moment ago, which is that a lot of the kids we're going to see on YouTube, they'll have parents our age, let's say, and they get put in, they get guitar lessons starting at age 3 or 4 or something like that. Probably parental pressure. I would suggest not very different from a lot of the kids who get pushed into sports early.
Mhm.
And I think they get burned out because you and I did it organically,
Right. That goes a
and-
long way.
yeah, I think so. And we did it out of love for music, and here I am. I'm still, my guitar is a huge part of my life, but
Yeah.
no one pressured me to do it. Same thing with you.
Right.
And I wonder if a lot of these shredders we're seeing on social media these days, if we had a crystal ball, if they'd still be playing in 10, 15, 20 years, because they might not be doing it from love. They might be doing it because their parents just had them do it.
We've had musicians on the show that were trained classically, like
Our
Dor-
Juilliard friend.
Dorian Chia.
Yes.
And the violin and violin is something you just can't pick up and start noodling around with. But he also told the story how he was he wanted to play guitar so bad that he stole one from school.
I know, it was such a great story. And he quit. I mean, he plays a little violin now, but he rebelled. And thankfully,
Yeah.
at least music was still in his blood.
Yeah. So I mean, he took it to, obviously playing violin takes it to a different level.
Yeah.
But we've had classically trained lessons people, if you will.
Yep.
Dave, did you practice your piano lessons today? No.
Right.
So when we had Joel Hoekstra on, he had a great point in regards to as far as practicing guitar, and this is what he had to say.
I always preach what worked for me, and that's the consistency. When you play guitar, I always tell people the number one thing is that to try and play your guitar every day. While you're taking lessons from me, try to play your guitar every day, and that's harder than it sounds because people might be like, "You mean I could just pick it up and play for 2 minutes?" Yeah,
Right.
but the thing is that if you do that, if you do play every day, I've never known anybody that played every day that wasn't good.
Yeah.
Ever. So, I mean, it's like, just do that. And I'm like, there's going to be times where you're going to look at it and be like, no way. I just worked 12 hours. I just, had the worst day ever.
Right.
Like,
Or I don't like what's coming out of my own hands right now.
If you can go over to your guitar and pick it up for 2 minutes, then, you're still going to be the person that wins the battle. So you just got to be the person that keeps picking it up no matter.
Yeah, great point. And you know what? Ever since I saw that interview, I do try to pick up my guitar every day.
I do the same thing every month.
And I try to every month. It really is hard to try to pick up your guitar every day.
Especially,
and when you do pick it up, are you trying to learn something new and different? So
yeah, and I think his point is just to do it.
Yeah.
I think, I think he's always, and you're in the back of my head because you've been pushing me to do it. And it's funny, one day I had a hard day at work and I thought I'm going to do it first, Joel, but now Scott's been pushing me to do. And it felt wonderful. And 10 minutes turned into about 40. And it was pleasurable. But it's all, I run once or twice a week usually. The first 10 minutes that I run are torture and horrible. And then once I bust through that, it is at times euphoric. Other times it's just nice. But you have to force yourself to do it. And he said something powerful. He said, if you do that, he said, I don't know anyone who does that who isn't a great guitar player.
he doesn't know anyone.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so finite and sure of himself that he knows that if you pick up your guitar every day and noodle around on it, even if you're a beginner, we all started, or I started with one finger for 25 or 6 to 4, right?
Or
smoke on the one finger, smoke on the water.
Yeah.
And now, but we live in a marvelous time. We have gadgetry, we have guitars that you could buy. If you go back to our cheap guitars episode, a good instrument is attainable now. You don't spend thousands of dollars to get into it. The Ivy,
$187.
Yep.
Look at that action.
Plays like butter.
It plays like butter. Look at that.
Isn't that great?
It's gorgeous.
I love that. I knew you would love that thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things I got recently, I saw on the internet. This was a total internet purchase. It's called and we're not getting paid to advertise this. This is something I personally bought, and I love it. And it really ties into what we're talking about. When you want to practice and play, sometimes the tone will turn you on per se, and you'll, if your guitar sounds like Angus Young, then you try to play AC/DC songs. It kind of, I don't know, drives you a little bit better. And that's one of the things this does. It's called a Spark Go. It's about $129. It comes with free software for your phone, connects via Bluetooth, and so you look up a song. It pulls the song off the internet, probably through YouTube, I believe. So there's a video. Then it transcribes what kind of chords you should be playing automatically, and it picks out a suggested tone. But if you don't like that tone, there's a gazillion pedals in here digitally and amps and settings that you could pull.
Gazillion's a lot.
There are so many, and then you could save 4 of them as presets, and you can plug your earphones in. You could play through the little speaker, and it's fantastic.
And it really, it encourages you to play. You know, I think that's one of the
It
reasons.
does. It's so much fun. Like
Yeah.
hours go by and I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to bed. So the little QR code there will take you to guitarmasters.com, and that will bring you to, if you purchase one, it'll take you to Amazon to finish the sale. There's no extra charge. I get a teeny tiny little commission. But it's great. It's small, fits in a gig bag. I mean, it's a fantastic practice tool.
Very cool. It's brilliant that someone thought of that.
They have bigger models
Right.
that they make, which are a little more expensive, but they all use the same software. So they have one that's like a little cube, and they have one.
Okay.
The first one is like it's like a lunchbox size amp, which
Right.
actually is quite loud. But I thought for the price and the portability of this,
Yeah, under
and
130 bucks.
to learn new songs for a cover band and pull up tones and get into it and pull up YouTube videos and jam along, I think it's fantastic.
Oh, it's great.
So much fun.
And one of the things, to get you to play more often, I only have about 5 or 6 guitars. I think you have probably 20 or 30.
I'm thinning out the herd though.
Yeah, but I have your old G&L.
Yes.
But which is beautiful. It really does play as nicely as a Strat. But I think a little bit of variety in guitar is helpful. I've got this cute little practice amp here I got on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
It's a fake old one. I don't think it's as genuinely old as it looks, but and like that little gadget that you showed us, a little different tone encourages you to play a little more.
Yeah.
Where there's flange or chorus or some really cool distortion.
Absolutely. I was playing a Police song, right? And so Andy Summers' tone is very unique and famous. A lot of chorus, a lot of echo, a lot of effects, right?
Yeah.
And at the push of a button, I brought up a Police song, "Driven to Tears," I think, and
Right.
this Spark amp automatically picked up the perfect tone.
Wow.
Like people make these tones and they upload them to the internet, and then they give you 2 or 3 to choose from. So if you're gonna do a Pink Floyd song, it'll show you this is the bridge, this is the solo,
Right,
this is
right.
the chorus. There's different tones for different things, and you just go through the tones, and it's so much fun. It really is.
That really is. And it's interesting. It's still, I have that old school in me. And I think about, we did a show, I forgot who our guest was, John something, who showed us a rebuilt Leslie amp.
Yes.
He took us on a tour of his attic.
John D. Nicola.
Yeah, he was an Academy Award winner. Very good. Yeah. And he was wonderful. And I want that. I'm buying one off of you this weekend. And at the same time, I have such a love. I have my bootlegger tube amp.
Yeah.
Right. That I love. And I love that, but I also will get nostalgic, and I want to overheat those tubes, and I want to get that natural distortion.
Yeah,
I think
we're
they're
like
both wonderful.
Like Phil X famously says, we're all nerds, geeks. We love tone, and we're tone chasers. And
Yeah.
somebody wrote an entire book about Van Halen tone chasing.
Yeah.
And Phil famously said on a show that you had the tone when
Right.
when you chasing, you had it. You could stop. But that's the point.
Yeah.
Van Halen and all of us never stop tone chasing. We're always looking for like, ooh, that sounds just. My brother texted me today, and he's like, he's got this multi stomp box thing by Zoom, a pedal, and he found the setting, and it's like, oh my god, it sounds just like Eddie Van Halen in the 1980s. It's got chorus in it and distortion. It's perfect, and he was so excited, and it made him play all afternoon Van Halen songs, pretty much.
Yeah. And that, I was just talking to someone who wants to get her kid to start playing guitar, and I said, you got to go electric.
Absolutely.
It's not even a close call, because otherwise the odds are infinitesimally, I can't say it.
I don't know. You're
higher.
the lawyer with the big words.
I know. I don't talk good.
I don't talk good.
I don't talk too good. But the kid will drop guitar. If you put that kid on acoustic, the odds are probably 10 to 1 they'll drop.
Well, look, if he's a big Peter, Paul, and Mary fan, or he likes folk music, I mean,
yeah.
then you're you're chasing your heroes, right? You're getting the same sound they have by playing acoustic guitar. You know, if you're a Jim Croce fan or whatever, you know.
Just play
But
for
you
fun.
get into electric, it's a whole. You actually get the best of both worlds. You could play James Taylor, right?
Yep.
But you could still
He owns an
play
electric.
AC/DC.
Yeah.
So you know, I listen. Once I started getting stomp boxes, it was like a sickness. I got a distortion, then I got an overdrive, then I got an echo, then I got a reverb, then I got a chorus and a flanger, and the minute you plug that in and play one chord, you're like, oh my god, that sounds like.
It gets exciting.
Fill in the blank. It just your brain remembers.
And here's another way it encourages us. If you've got a lot of either distortion or echo, whatever you're putting in there, we all know it will serve as a cover up to less than perfect playing. And the purists might say, no, I only like to play clean. But for the rest of us, it encourages us to play more because the sound is a little nicer, because you're not hearing the mess ups. There's all this sustain and there's a cool sound coming out.
Yeah.
And then it forces us to become better musicians because we're playing more.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if somebody put up a video somewhere along the line where they were doing like U2 songs, Edge songs without echo.
Oh,
And and it sounded like ding, ding, ding. But once you add that echo, it's part of his tone, part of his sound, and part of the rhythm of the whole song. Everything is coming out of that echoing, you know, that delay, that delay.
And that's part of his art. And it's also, I think, why that the movie where it was him, was it Jack? Who was the other guitar player, and Jimmy Page were on it. It's in black and white. It's 3 guitar players. So it's the Edge, Jimmy Page. And
this is gonna get loud. And and White.
Jack White. Yeah. And everyone who watches that has such a lack of respect for poor Edge, you know, because he's not a virtuoso. He's just not.
I always said he's a sound alchemist.
Yes, that's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah.
He puts together a sound and a tone that services the song, right?
Yep. Right. And he's an artist.
Yeah, and you
more than many.
I could think of a lot of songs that use, you know, the wah-wah pedal's the star of the show, the whammy pedal's the star of the show, the digital delay is the star of the show. You know, without those effects, you can't cover "Run Like Hell" by Pink Floyd with all that digital madness going on.
No, or what's his name? The one who just went on tour again. It was supposed to stop playing with the mouth.
Peter Frampton.
Peter Frampton.
Yeah. What's that song going to sound like without a talk box?
It won't sound like it. Yeah, it just won't sound like it.
I mean, that is a huge part of the song. So guitar effects drive us to come up with new ideas. Cathedral by Van Halen, let's say.
Yeah.
He's using the volume control on the guitar, and he's got an echo going on, and it kind of sounds like a violin.
Yeah.
Amazing. But you can't cover that without an echo, and it won't work.
No.
There's no way that's going to happen.
And I'm going to bring us back home on this. So when we talk about our theme, discourage or encourage, for us to encourage ourselves, what you're talking about is perfect.
Yeah. Well, you can encourage yourself, and you could be a little, maybe taken back is the right word.
Yeah.
You know, you see, I saw Steve Vai at the Starland Ballroom. I'll never forget how amazing that was. I was just like, I think I was doing this the whole time.
Right.
Just staring. I'm like, what is going? His just crazy amounts of notes going on, but in a tasteful way.
Yeah.
And when I met Steve Vai at that metal show, Jim Florentine brought me along. He called me up, said, "Hey, you want to come down? Steve Vai is going to be on the show." And after the show, one of the things I do when I meet famous people is they don't talk about what they do.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like, yeah. That's what I did on that song. Okay, yeah. They get bored right away. Steve and I were talking about holistic medicine and bees, believe it or not, for like 15 minutes. And Jim Florentine comes walking by and goes, "Hey, Scott plays guitar," you know, like he knowing that what I do. And he go, and right away he kind of clammed up a little bit. So I go, So in order to kind of get us out of that thunk right away, I said, "Oh, you play guitar too? Are you any good?" And
That's
then
perfect.
I got a little chuckle out of him. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's he was so amazing. So amazing. Same thing with Joe Satriani, just amazing players. So you got that level of guy, and then you have, I like some of the old blues players,
Yeah.
you know,
And
who could play one note and make the hair on my neck stand up
exactly.
because I don't have any hair on my head, so it's got to be the hair on my neck.
It has to be that same year.
Albert Collins or Freddie King or just so good. Johnny Winter. Oh.
I know.
And
now let me ask you this. So you've got our heroes, right? I don't know too often if you watch a hero where you might get discouraged, but what if it's someone within reach? Someone you grew up with, someone who was in your immediate orbit, and they're 2 or 3 levels better. I wonder if that's the scenario where it could get discouraging because, like you could look at an internationally famous guitar player and think, all right, well that's Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Right.
Dare I say we haven't brought him up before? John Mayer. That would be a
Look,
whole.
I'm not like, am I a big fan of John Mayer? No, but I can appreciate his guitar playing.
He's damn good, right? But
It's
then
very
you get, so you're at Bar A one day, and guitar player X, I'm making up a name, not Phil X, but just some random guitar player shows up who's at your level, but you watch her or him, and you feel like, wow, they do that better than I do. They do that better than I do, and they're 10 years younger.
I think vocally I can bring it sometimes. I could tell you that when I played Stone Pony, I knew there was a famous singer in this audience.
Right.
That I completely blew my voice out. I was singing notes. The band's like, "What are you singing? These crazy notes! Oh my god, it's so amazing!" Blah 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 blah. Because Joe Schmo is here, so I got caught up in it. And I wanted to be really good.
So but he also made you in a healthy way, a little bit competitive. I guess.
Yeah. So in a competitive way, I wasn't like jealous of the guy, but I knew that he's a great singer.
Yeah.
And I poured gas on the fire that night, like big time. Like I was.
So
saying, notes way not out of my range. It's in my range, but I normally don't go that hard.
You caused yourself a little damage.
And the next day I was like, "Hi everybody." Yeah, I sounded like a loan shark from Brooklyn.
Right. So that
Where's
falls
the money?
squarely. Yeah, that falls squarely into the category of encourage then, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So I haven't heard from you, which is healthy, too much discourage.
Yeah, I can. I think the discouraging happens at the early levels of your journey.
Yeah, I think
it could happen.
Yeah.
Because I had it on when I was playing drums when I was a kid, and I used to go to a lot of drum clinics with my father, who was emceeing these things, and I met some of the greatest drummers in the world. I mean, Louis Bellson, Buddy Rich, Simon Phillips, Billy Cobham, all kinds of really high-end, amazing drummers. And I was just like, am I ever going to get that good? Oh man, I don't know. Well, and they would just tell me, oh, practice every day, keep at it, speed. You got to start slow and work up your speed, and all these things. And I'm like, all right, well, and I did get okay on drums. I don't think I was world class awesome, but I mean, there's even in the drum world, there's some drummers that just have a really good groove and they're not really super quick fancy, like Ringo or Steve Gadd. They're not known for their fast playing. No. And is fast is it's not. There isn't any speed limit on music per se, but I mean, sometimes fast is too fast. It's too like your brain can't even absorb sometimes what you're hearing. I mean,
and that's another thing I'm seeing all over the internet. There's a couple of drummers who will take silly videos that are going viral and make songs out of them. Have you seen these?
Yeah.
And they're like human metronomes. I mean,
they're
some of them are like physically jacked. They're big guys, and they are just machines.
I think as far as guitar playing, when you do have a fast riff in your repertoire, as Aaron Dethridge says,
Yeah.
It'll stick out a little more if everything else is kind of serving the
Yeah.
song,
Right.
and kind of like a bit of a bluesy lick and some feel, and you're stretching your notes and they're in pitch.
Right.
You throw a little two-handed tap here and there, but nothing nutty. That's why Jeff Beck was so great.
Yeah.
Right. He would like, the fast stuff would stick out at you because the rest of it was sort of fluid and melodic and there was cool things going on. And then he would play something, you go, whoa, what was that?
Yeah. Well, it's what
The
you
whole
said.
thing is
Yeah.
fast.
No, then you're done.
I'm like, I can't absorb all that.
You mean
all
like
the-
Yngwie Malmsteen?
Yeah, I'm very, very bored at one of his concerts. It was so over the top that I actually kind of started tuning out.
Yeah.
It wasn't inspiring me at all because I'm like, I can't do that. I'm never going to do that.
Well, one of the themes we've had on the show countless times is the notion of selflessness. So you mentioned before service to song,
Yeah.
and you, along with many other guests, have talked about playing to your audience, making sure that the people in attendance have a good experience. And when a guitar is there to service one's own, or a solo or any kind of playing, is solely designed to service one's own ego.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even music at that point.
I mean, I invented my own little solo for Country Roads, believe it or not, that we play in the band all the time. And it's got some slow, stretchy notes in it with a little two-handed tap, a la Neil Giraldo, and Jeff Beckish I got a little whammy bar going in there to make it sound sort of like a slide.
Right.
But way over the top for an easy song and I could play a lot easier of a solo, but I was like, let me do something creative, a little more interesting and creative,
That's I said 10, 15 minutes ago, you are an artist or something. and even when you're playing a cover, you can't help, nor should you help, from being artistic.
You got to sprinkle in your own self into when you're doing covers anyway. I mean, there are iconic solos and iconic songs you really can't deviate from. Like if you're playing in Guns N' Roses, let's say, you got to play the riff exactly the same way, and the solo is exactly the same way. Or we're doing Metallica, I try to cop the solo the same way, or Bon Jovi or something. But once in a while, if we're playing some kind of funk song, and I am allowed to go nuts, or we do Superstition. So it's in the flavor of Stevie Ray Vaughan, but I'm not playing like Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Right.
I'm just like a little, because my Guitar Hero Age is amalgamation of whammy bar tricks from Brad Gillis, two-handed tapping from Van Halen, melodic solos from Randy Rhoads, bluesy stuff from Stevie Ray Vaughan and Johnny Winter, and all that stuff is mushed together. Like, I know some guys can't play slide guitar worth of crap.
Right.
It just doesn't come off well. But I feel like if you're doing ZZ Top, or you're doing a song that has a slide in it, like Rocky Mountain Way or something, you got to play the slide.
You got to play the slide.
And if the song has a talk box in it, you better get out the talk box. Don't give me this wah-wah pedal stuff, which sounds close, but it doesn't sound like the song. You could get that extra.
You got to service the song.
Or I use my little toy ray gun for Rebel Yell that I stole that idea from Steve Stevens.
Or you're a kazoo.
Kazoo, yeah. I'm dying to bring out the marching band drum.
Oh, that would be fun.
I'm bothering everybody about that. I bought lighted sticks. I bought this marching band drum like 6 years ago. We were going to do something with it. Nothing ever happened. I'm like, guys, we brought the confetti cannon back the last show. Let's bring this marching band drum into the thing. It's going to be solid. People are going to go crazy.
I think it's a great idea.
Put on a show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, just like that, 50 minutes went by.
I know. It's crazy.
We thought we were going to do 30.
Nah,
we're on all kinds of topics and stuff. So you want to talk about our merch or upcoming shows?
Yeah, I'll give you the upcoming shows. I'll talk about the merch. Why don't you slide it onto the screen a little bit?
All right. Well, upcoming shows wise, we have scheduled to appear, we should say, because things always
not booked yet.
Happen.
I just got over COVID.
Oh, poor Dave. He ruined the whole August calendar, but that's okay.
I did.
We'll come back. But we have a representative from a guitar company called Vintage Guitar. I know. You try to Google vintage guitar, you're going to get all kinds of pictures of vintage.
Too many hits. Yeah.
This is the Vintage Guitar Company, and
Yeah.
I just love what they're doing. They're making relic and non-relic versions of all your favorite guitars. They're very, very reasonably priced and
Yeah.
very, very well made. And I want to hear how they came up with some of those designs and stuff. Then we have Mike Wren, aka the Desk Chicken, who's in charge of collecting Kiss. So that's our Kiss episode. We'll have a lot of Kiss
He's, I
stuff
think,
going
the
on.
biggest collector in the world of Kiss.
We'll be talking about Kisstery and all kinds of Kiss stuff.
Yep.
You know, all kinds of stuff like that. And we have Dan, the song parody man. You may remember him from Howard Stern.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dan wants to come on the show and talk about writing song parodies and what he's up to. And Don Jameson from That Metal Show, and also from their new show That Rocks, which is online. Don is also a touring comedian. We want to see the parallel between comics and musicians. I think that would be interesting. Plus, Don actually plays guitar, which is really cool.
A semi-prerequisite that we don't enforce.
Yeah, we don't really. Yeah. We haven't really been enforcing it. I think if you're an interesting guest, you're just an interesting guest.
Yeah.
And I think that's all that's on the calendar as far as upcoming guests.
I think it is too.
And in if you click the little, well, not click, if you take a picture of the merch QR code at the top, you can check out our merch store. We got a lot of cool stuff on there. There's a little
we have such cool
picture of me.
The mugs, the hats, the shirts.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
So I'm not wearing my hat today, but I should have.
Nah, I got my bootlegger hat over here. That doesn't count.
Well, over here in Wall Township, New Jersey, the sky is opening. It's finally raining about as hard as could possibly rain.
Now, I can see here in Beach Haven West, I see a very cloudy sky, but no rain yet. But
yeah, it's raining pretty hard. My dogs are going to be scared.
Yeah.
So until next time, we will see you soon with a regular installment, not an intermezzo installment of Guitar Tales. Right, Dave?
That's absolutely right. Have a great night, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.